My name is Bethany Alexander. I'm 29, a graphic designer living in a mid-sized city that feels too small when your heart's been broken. Before everything fell apart, I used to think love was built on patience, that if you gave enough, stayed, kind enough things would balance out. I believed that with my whole soul. Leon was the kind of man who could make any room feel alive. He was a freelance writer, bright charming, always chasing something bigger than himself. The problem was, the something bigger never stayed the same for long. When we met, I loved his fire. He said I grounded him, kept him sane when deadlines piled up or editors ghosted him. And for a while, that balance worked. He'd get lost in his dreams, and I'd quietly hold our world together paying bills, when his invoices were late bringing coffee, when he stayed up writing, believing we were a team. But love can turn one-sided without you noticing. 6 months before it ended, Leon took a side job bartending at a trendy lounge downtown. Just something temporary, he'd said. But soon his stories started sounding different. New friends, new nightlife, new energy. He'd come home smelling like whiskey and laughter eyes, bright but distant. I'd ask rough shift. He'd shrug, just tired. But I wasn't blind. His phone buzzed constantly, messages he'd hide with a quick flick of his thumb. When I asked who it was, he'd laugh. You don't have to worry, Bethany. Not everyone's out to break your heart. I wish I'd realized then people only say that when they already have. The fights started small. Forgotten calls, missed dinners. Then came the digs. You're always planning everything. Loosen up. You don't take risks. That's why your designs feel safe. Each word was a splinter. He was becoming someone else, and maybe I was too. The kind of woman who stared at her phone long after it stopped ringing, trying to convince herself things were fine. Then came that night. Our friend Mark hosted one of his famous house parties, crowded rooms, loud music, people everywhere, pretending life was perfect. I went because Leon insisted. I thought maybe it'd help us reconnect. I even wore the dress he once said made me look like trouble in a good way. But he barely noticed. He was across the room laughing too loudly with a blonde from his bar named Chloe. I saw the way his hand lingered at her waist when she whispered something in his ear. My stomach twisted, but I smiled anyway. The kind of smile women use when they're breaking inside. When I tried to approach, he turned and said, "Hey babe, this is Chloe. She actually understands what it's like to take risks." The air thickened around me. I forced a polite nod. "Nice to meet you," she smirked. "Oh, I've heard so much about you." Something about the way she said it told me everything I didn't want to know. I excused myself, went to the kitchen to breathe. A minute later, Leon followed, his eyes sharp, his tone colder than I'd ever heard. "Bethany, we need to talk." I swallowed hard. "Now," he gestured vaguely toward the crowd outside. "Might as well. Everyone knows anyway." Before I could speak, he stepped back, raising his voice just enough for others nearby to hear. "I can't do this anymore. You're safe, Bethany. Predictable. I need someone with ambition. Someone who isn't afraid to live." Then he laughed, turning toward Chloe. Like her. The room went quiet. Someone turned down the music. Every pair of eyes in that kitchen burned into me. My throat went dry. "Leon," I whispered, "can we at least talk in private?" He shook his head. "Why?" "So you can make me feel guilty again. I'm done being the bad guy because you're afraid to change." For a moment, I thought I'd collapse. My heart was racing so fast it felt like it was trying to escape. But then something inside me, something tired and quiet, snapped into focus. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't beg. I just said calmly, "If that's what you want, I won't stop you." He looked startled, like he'd been waiting for drama that never came. That's the thing about cruel people, they feed off reactions. Deny them that, and they lose control. I turned, picked up my purse, and walked out. Behind me, someone whispered, "What just happened?" And then I heard Leon's laugh, sharp, forced. Out on the porch, the night air was cold against my skin. My hands trembled, but my face didn't. In that silence, with music muffled behind closed doors, I realized something no one teaches you about heartbreak. Sometimes the loudest goodbye is the one you never say out loud. I called a cab, went home, and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the blank wall where his sketches used to hang. I felt hollow, but beneath the ache was something else, a flicker of relief. It wasn't strength yet, just the first breath after drowning. But that was the night I stopped being the woman waiting for someone else to choose her, and started learning how to choose myself. The next morning, the sunlight felt wrong, too bright, too steady for a world that had just ended. Leon's toothbrush was still in the holder, his mug on the counter, a half-empty bottle of cologne by the sink. I stood there staring at those things, realizing that sometimes heartbreak isn't loud or cinematic. Sometimes it's just clutter that doesn't belong to you anymore. By noon, I'd packed his things into boxes, folded shirts, books, even that stupid typewriter he swore made his writing more authentic. I left everything neatly by the door, taped a note on top that said, "You wanted a new life. Here's a clean start." Then I left before I could change my mind. I found a tiny studio apartment across town, peeling paint, a single narrow window, and walls that echoed when I spoke, but it was mine. The first night there, I sat on the floor with a takeout box and silence. No constant phone buzzing, no sighs of disappointment, no pretending. Just me, the hum of the refrigerator, and a quiet that was both haunting and healing. I didn't cry much, not yet. The tears came later at random, folding laundry, hearing a song, walking past the cafe we used to visit. Grief hides in the smallest corners. At work, I buried myself in design projects. I'd always been good, steady, reliable, but I'd let Leon's chaos consume my focus. Now I stayed late, pitched new ideas, said yes to projects I used to think were above my pay grade. My boss noticed. "You've been sharper lately, Bethany," he said one evening, as I handed over a rebrand proposal. "Keep that fire going." Funny, I thought. The fire Leon said I lacked. But it wasn't easy. Nights were the hardest. That's when the memories tried to crawl back in. His laugh, his arms, the promises that aged faster than milk. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering to myself, "You're not broken. You're rebuilding." To shake off the emptiness, I joined a gym near my apartment. It was a small, no-frills place, sweaty loud, filled with people chasing their own kinds of redemption. The first day, I almost walked out. I felt awkward, out of place, like I didn't belong in a world of steel and mirrors. But then I thought about Leon's smirk when he used to joke about my comfortable lifestyle as if stability was something to mock, and I stayed. At first, I could barely last 20 minutes without gasping. My arms ached, my legs burned, but that pain felt clean. I wasn't lifting weights. I was lifting pieces of myself back together. Weeks blurred into months. My body started changing. My posture straightened. My reflection looked less like someone who'd been discarded and more like someone quietly reclaiming her strength. Even my smile, small but real, started coming back. Friends reached out here and there. Mark texted, "Hey, game night soon." "Don't worry, Leon won't be there." I almost said no. But then I thought, why should I keep shrinking just because he couldn't handle me? So I went. It was awkward at first. People avoided saying his name, tiptoeing around the story they'd all heard. But after a few drinks and some laughter, the heaviness began to lift. I wasn't Leon's ex in that room anymore. I was Bethany again. Still late at night, the old doubts sometimes returned. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was too safe, too predictable, too easy to walk away from. But then I'd remember that quiet moment on the porch, the calm that came after humiliation. That was strength, not weakness. One night after a long gym session, I sat in my car and finally let it all out. The anger, the humiliation, the confusion. I cried until my chest ached, until the rearview mirror blurred with tears. And then in the middle of that breakdown, a strange kind of peace arrived. He'd broken something in me, yes, but I was the one rebuilding it. Stronger, sharper, on my own terms. From then on, I treated every sunrise as proof he didn't ruin me. He freed me. And somewhere between the sweat, the silence, and the sound of my own heartbeat, I stopped waiting for closure because I realized the real closure isn't an apology. It's the moment you stop needing one. By the time autumn rolled around, I'd built something close to peace. Not perfect, never perfect, but steady. My studio had plants now, my walls had framed prints from projects I was proud of, and my laughter didn't sound forced anymore. I'd started freelancing on the side, taking on branding clients who liked my bold colors and clean lines. The confidence that Leon once mocked had quietly become my currency. I was no longer someone's supporting act. I was my own headline. Then, one Friday night, after wrapping a client call, I got a message from Mark. "Hey, heads up. Leon's been having issues at the bar. Word is he's been fighting with that girl, Chloe." "You didn't hear it from me. Okay." I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling a flicker of something I couldn't name. It wasn't satisfaction, Not quite, more like recognition. The kind of chaos he'd chased had finally turned around to bite him. I didn't reply, just locked my phone and got back to work. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor, because the next week he texted me, Leon. Hey Bethany, been a while. How are you? Miss talking to you. My chest tightened, not from longing, but from disbelief. Miss talking. After humiliating me in public and replacing me within hours, I stared at the screen, remembering his words from that night. I need someone with ambition, someone who isn't afraid to live. Now here he was, crawling back like nothing had happened. I deleted the message without replying. A few days later, another one came. Look, I know I hurt you, but I was confused. Things with Chloe aren't what I expected. She's different. I made a mistake. He wanted a reaction, a thread of empathy to pull. But he'd taught me something valuable: silence can be louder than words. So I blocked the number. That should have been the end of it, except he didn't stop. He found new ways to reach me. Unknown numbers, emails, even a DM on my work account of all places. The tone changed every time, sweet, remorseful, angry, desperate. Don't ignore me, Bethany. You're proving I was right. You are cold. That one made me laugh out loud. He still didn't get it. Refusing to be his emotional crutch wasn't cruelty. It was healing. Then came the phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Bethany, it's Lena. It took me a second to place the name. Leon's sister. We'd spoken maybe twice in all the years I'd been with him. Her voice was sharp, impatient. Listen, my brother's going through hell. Chloe kicked him out. He's sleeping on friends' couches, and he won't stop talking about you. Maybe you could, I don't know, talk to him. Help him get his head straight. I took a slow breath, staring out the window at the rain streaking the glass. Lena, with all due respect, Leon made his choices. I'm not the solution to them. She scoffed. You always were too proud. He's miserable, and you're just ignoring him. That old familiar guilt tried to creep in, the kind that used to make me clean up his messes, apologize for his anger. But not this time. I'm not ignoring him, I said quietly. I just stopped letting him use me as a safety net. Before she could reply, I ended the call. The rain kept falling. Outside, the world looked gray and distant, but inside my little apartment, it was warm. I lit a candle, made tea, and sat by the window, listening to the city hum. That night, I wrote something in my journal that I still come back to. When people show you their fire, don't try to warm yourself with it. Walk away before it burns you again. The next few weeks proved that walking away had been the right choice. Through mutual friends, I heard bits and pieces: how Leon had been yelling at Chloe during her shifts, how he'd been drinking more than working. The bar manager finally fired him after a public argument that ended with broken glasses and someone calling security. People stopped mentioning his name around me after that, and honestly, I didn't miss it. But one night, while scrolling through my phone, a new message popped up. This one wasn't from him, it was from his sister again. You might not care, but Leon's a mess. He's broke, depressed, and blaming everyone but himself. He said you ruined him by cutting him off. Happy now. I didn't respond. I just put my phone face down and exhaled. Because I wasn't happy, not in a cruel way, but I was free, and that was worth everything. Still, somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't the last time I'd hear from him. Men like Leon don't just vanish quietly. They circle back when their chaos runs out of fuel. And I could feel it in my bones. He wasn't done trying to pull me back into his fire. It happened on a Tuesday. Ordinary day emails, coffee gone cold, my desk covered with sketches for a new client rebrand. I'd finally gotten my routine down, and for the first time in a long time, I felt in control. Then my receptionist buzzed through the intercom. Bethany, there's someone here asking for you. Says it's urgent. I frowned. Who? A pause. Then hesitantly, he said his name's Leon. My stomach dropped. Of course. The universe couldn't let me have one peaceful Tuesday. I almost told her to send him away. But some part of me, the part that wanted closure or maybe just wanted to look him in the eye, one last time, said I'll be right down. The elevator ride to the lobby felt longer than usual. My reflection in the mirrored walls looked steady, but inside I was bracing for impact. And there he was, Leon. Except not the Leon I remembered. This version looked smaller somehow, thinner, unshaven. His once proud posture bent like he'd been carrying his own regret too long. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes hollow. When he saw me, his lips parted like he didn't believe I was real. Bethany, he said softly, voice hoarse, you look incredible. I didn't answer that. I crossed my arms. What are you doing here? He gave a weak laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. I know I shouldn't have just shown up, but you've been ignoring my messages, and I needed to see you, in person. I kept my tone flat. You needed to see me. For what, Leon? To apologize. To fix your mess, or to feel better about what you did. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Bethany, please. I know I screwed up. I was stupid. I thought Chloe was different, fun, exciting. But she's a nightmare. Controlling, manipulative. Everything I accused you of being, she actually was. For a moment, I just stared at him. He was trying so hard to look sincere, but all I could see was the man who once called me predictable in front of a room full of people. Leon, I said quietly, do you hear yourself? You don't want me. You just hate being alone. His expression cracked. That's not true. I miss you. I miss how peaceful things were. You were my home. The words landed like a punch. Not because I believed them, but because there was a time I would have done anything to hear them. But now they just sounded empty. I took a deep breath. You humiliated me, Leon. You said I wasn't enough. And now because the chaos you chased turned on you, you expect me to patch you up. That's not love. That's convenience. His jaw tightened. You've changed. You used to be so forgiving. No, I said, stepping closer. I used to be afraid. Afraid that if I didn't forgive, I'd lose you. But I already did, and I survived it. He looked down, voice trembling. I don't know how to fix this. You don't, I said simply, because I don't need it fixed. For a second, I thought he might cry. His shoulders shook, his eyes glassy. So that's it. You're just going to walk away after everything. I nodded. Yes, because walking away was the only thing you taught me to do right. He stepped forward, desperate now. Bethany, please. I'm begging you. I don't have anyone else. You were always the kind one. Don't turn your back on me, too. I stared at him, really looked. At the man who once called me safe, now begging for the safety he destroyed. Kindness, I said slowly, isn't the same as self-sacrifice. I can care about what happened to you and still refuse to let you back into my life. His voice broke. You're heartless. I almost laughed. No. I just stopped bleeding for people who enjoy watching me hurt. We stood there in the middle of the lobby, two ghosts of a past that had burned out long ago. Then I turned my heels, clicking on the tile, and walked away. The elevator doors slid shut between us, and for the first time in years I felt truly untethered. Not angry, not even sad, just free. Back in my office, I sat at my desk, staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop. He had come looking for closure, but all he'd really done was remind me how far I'd come. And deep down, I knew it wouldn't be the last time he tried. People like Leon never handle losing control. But I wasn't his safety net anymore. I was my own anchor. Weeks passed after that confrontation, and something in me shifted permanently. It wasn't just relief, it was a quiet, blooming strength that wrapped itself around my life like morning light through open blinds. Work thrived. Clients requested me by name now. I led presentations instead of assisting them. My name appeared on the company's website as lead designer, and seeing it there, bold official, made my chest tighten in the best way. At the gym, people started recognizing me. The trainers nodded when I walked in. The woman at the front desk once said, "You've really transformed Bethany. You look like someone who doesn't let anything get to her." I smiled. That's the goal. But I won't lie. There were moments when the past still flickered. When a song from that party played on the radio. When I passed a cafe where we used to sit for hours planning a life that never happened. But instead of aching, those memories now felt like dust I'd brushed off. Then one evening it happened. I was mid-deadlift set, sweat dripping down my back, music blasting in my ears, when I saw him. Leon, standing near the entrance, scanning the room, looking lost in a place where I now belonged. His hair was unkempt clothes, hanging loose on a thinner frame. His eyes darted around until they landed on me. And in that instant, I saw it, the shock, the recognition, the regret. He hesitated, then walked over, weaving through the machines until he stood a few feet away. I didn't stop my reps. I finished the set calm and steady before setting the bar down. "Bethany," he said softly, "you've changed." I wiped my forehead with a towel, looking at him evenly. That tends to happen when you stop carrying someone else's weight. He flinched, but tried to recover with a smile. "You look amazing." "I mean, wow. I always knew you had this in you. I just didn't care to see it," I interrupted. He looked down, shame washing over his face. "I deserve that." Then quietly, Chloe's gone. Took everything I had. My savings, my laptop. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch. I don't know where to start. I folded my towel neatly, keeping my tone even. "You'll figure it out. You always said you wanted to live fearlessly. This is what that looks like." He stepped closer, desperation creeping in. "Please, Bethany, don't do this. I know I don't deserve your help, but I can't stop thinking about how good we had it, how stable things were with you. You were right about everything. For a moment, I studied his face, the same face that once sneered at me for being too predictable. And suddenly I felt nothing. No anger, no longing, just an odd kind of clarity. Leon, I said quietly, do you remember what you told me that night? That you needed excitement? That I was too safe, too boring? He nodded weakly. I smiled, small calm, unshakable. Well, here's your excitement. Consequences, uncertainty, the thrill of losing everything. Enjoy it. His eyes widened, hurt flashing across his face. You've changed, he repeated this time like an accusation. I have, I said. I learned that love without respect is just dependency dressed up as passion. You taught me that. Around us, the gym hummed with energy weights, clanging trainers calling out encouragement. The world kept moving indifferent to his misery. I picked up my water bottle, slung my gym bag over my shoulder. He reached out suddenly, fingers brushing my arm. Please don't walk away again. I can be better. I'll change. I stepped back. That's the difference between us, Leon. I did change. You just regret it. And with that, I turned and walked away. The trainer passing by gave me a grin. Nice form on those lifts today, Bethany. I nodded, smiling faintly. Thanks. Took a lot of practice. Behind me, I could feel Leon's silence, the kind that comes when someone finally realizes they've lost their power. By the time I reached the parking lot, the air felt lighter. The night sky stretched wide and endless above me. I stood for a moment looking up and whispered not to him, but to myself. You're not the woman he left. You're the woman who outgrew him. And for the first time since that awful night at the party, I laughed. Not bitterly, not broken, just softly, freely. People always talk about revenge like it's some grand act, but sometimes the most poetic revenge is no revenge at all, just living better, full, unapologetic, untouchable. So I drove home with the windows down, wind tangling my hair, music loud and alive. The city lights blurred into gold streaks, and my reflection in the windshield didn't look sad anymore. It looked whole. And as I pulled into my street, I whispered the truth I'd earned the hard way.